The psychology elements behind Vi comforting Powder in Arcane Episode 1, Season 1. Let's go. Powder is very connected to Vi, and her own self-image and self-esteem and feeling of worth is connected so much to Vi. But I think there is some personality elements in Powder that we can maybe track down only to her and not necessarily very dependent on Vi. For instance, I think Powder is the kind of person that is very open to new experience. She's a very curious person and she loves to explore the environment. And we can see this in the first 3 episodes. Powder is always curious. For instance, when the group was in the house at the Topsider city and Powder felt very safe because Vi was around, we saw the happy Powder, right? The explorer Powder, when she just walk around the house and find some cool new stuff. And you can see in her expression how she's enjoying and feeling happy at this moment. Powder is very intrigued by the new stuff, for instance the hex text that she finds, and she immediately wants to show the hex text, the core, to Vi. Powder likes to build stuff. I think we can assume that her personality is leaning toward open to new experience, and she's very creative in her own personality. That's why she's like to build those bombs. But of course she talked to the bombs and she have very deep emotional connection to them, and that's probably because the traumatic event and the way that she would had to grow up. Powder find the Hextex and she immediately wants to show them to Vi. But as we learn, when she goes down the stairs to find Vi, she finds her talking to Milo, and she only hearing half the conversation, and she hear Vi agreeing with Milo, basically saying Powder is keeping the group back and she's messing up a lot. And we can see how fragile the self-worth and the self-image of Powder in her own eyes to her, because when she hearing that, she immediately turn away and leave. It's hurt her so much that she can't even keep listening, maybe even to see maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Vi doesn't really mean that, as we, the viewers, find out just a second later. But when we look at Powder, we need to remember that her feeling of self-worth is very fragile and is very dependent on Vi. And if Vi is saying that Powder is actually not worthy, then that would be devastating to Powder. And it's so hard for her to hear that and to acknowledge that she immediately turns away. And we can only guess what a different person, perhaps us, you can imagine, what if it was you, that you hear your friends talking about you behind your back, and one of them saying that you are not worthy and the other agreed. How would you react? And perhaps you would go inside and talk to them and ask them, are you really think that? But Powder cannot do that. But for Powder, the act of actually go inside and confront Milo and Vi and ask them about it, it's unimaginable, super hard. So she ran away. Powder is finding comfort in the one thing that I think is really deeply in her own personality, only belong to her and not necessarily an interaction Vi Powder together, and that is her own curiosity and open to new experience and to new stuff. And so we see her drawing on the bombs and maybe trying to build a new bomb and just playing with the bombs. and with her own curiosity and imagination. And now Vi entered the room, and now we go into the psychology behind how Vi is comforting Powder. What exactly are the things that she does in order to lift her spirit? Vi asks, "Do you want to talk about today?" She first of all tried to understand what's going on in Powder. Basically, Powder feels that she doesn't have a self-worth, right? And she telling Vi, "I heard you say to Milo, and I heard you agreeing with Milo, that when you were my age, well, you were both twice me." And so how Vi comforting Powder? First step is lift her spirit in the physical way. So she is asking Powder to join her, and they go upstairs to the roof of the building. So of course there's a lot of reasons to go to the roof, but when we're feeling down and when we're feeling sad, a lot of the time one thing that can really help us is physical activity. Just jump a bit, running a bit, maybe go swimming, or maybe climbing upstairs to the roof and maybe get a new breeze of fresh air, which is very important. Sometimes when you're feeling down, all you need to do is maybe eat or get a little bit of sleep and you will get better. And the second thing, well, Powder immediately asking Vi, "What are we doing here?" And Vi doesn't even blink, and she starts telling Powder about old experience that the group had a long time ago when they were little children just like Powder. Powder starts laughing, and she's immediately starting to feel better. Vi share no expenses in order to lift Powder's spirit, and she's also telling her about an old experience that she herself had of messing up, right? Of being the weak one when another kid, stronger one probably, took her toy and threw it on some place very high that she could not get back. So what Vi is doing is she reframing the narrative and the thought narrative that Powder has on herself. Powder feeling sad because Powder feeling like a loser, basically. When you feel sad like this, you sometimes forget all the good stuff that's in you. That's why Vi, at the start of the conversation, telling Powder, "Wait, I mean, yes, you maybe you don't strong like me, and you don't have my fist, but you have your own invention make, like the bombs and stuff. You have good stuff in you. You're not all bad." And now, by telling her about old experience that the group has, that they are bad experience, that they are messed up, she basically is telling Powder, "Wait, yes, sometimes we messed up, but we cannot, and it's not true to think that one messed up, or maybe even 10 or 100, is all of what we are. We are much more than that." One of the most important sentence that I think Vi is telling Powder in this scene is, well, we all have bad days, but we learn and we stick together. And the last part, I think it's the most important way that Vi is using in order to lift Powder's spirit. And when Vi telling Powder we stick together, she's looking at her and making the point very clear. We are together. You are belonging. Because one of the most horrible things that a person can feel is that the feeling that is not belong, right? And is alone. And basically what Powder is feeling is that she is alone because she cannot pull her weight. She's not worthy. And because of that, she's not part of the group, basically. She's not belonging in the group. And Vi is telling her, "Wait, first of all, we all have bad days. And yet, we all learn, and we all sticking together. You are one of us." And by doing that, she's lifting Powder's spirit emotionally, because I think it's not enough only to lift her spirit from the physical meaning, right? Let's go into a run, or let's go jump down the stairs, right? And it's not enough to lift her spirit in the cognitive way, right? By making her do a reframing to the thoughts. Everybody messing up, and sometimes we messed up and sometimes we don't. By this way, she's lifting her spirit in the cognitive way, but in the last way she's lifting her spirit is emotionally. When she telling her, you are one of us. I am your sister, you are important to me, and I love you, basically. And I think this is the most important thing that can help us when we're feeling down, and when we're feeling sad, or when we're feeling like we don't have self-worth, or we feel alone and we feel that we don't belong in any group. If we will get sometimes only one person that will say to us, hey, wait, you are important to me, and I'm thinking about you, that can do a huge difference in our own feeling of self-worth and to lift our spirit up. Immediately after that Powder is feeling a bit better, she's remembering the reason that she want to see Vi in the first place, and is that to show Vi what she found, right? Because let's remember that Vi and Powder are as one. Powder want to show Vi the hex text that she find and share with her the feeling of excitement, and to see what she thinks and what needs to be done. Because basically, as we are learning, Powder is very connected and very dependent on Vi, and basically Powder only feel that she can do stuff in the world when Vi is thinking that and telling her that she can. And so Vi is learning that Powder found basically something very worthy, and she immediately showing her this to Powder and telling her, Milo was wrong, you're way stronger than you think. Because in this moment I think Vi identifying the strength that in Powder, the quality of her, the curiosity, the open to new experience, the drive to build stuff and to explore stuff and to make new things, right? Those qualities are Powder alone. I do not think that those qualities are as the same as the other qualities, right, of confidence and self-worth that I think is tied and dependent on Vi. But I think the curiosity of Powder and the ability to see beyond what meets the eye, this is Powder. This is her own core of personality. And that's why those things are still in her, even though when she becomes Jinx, we can see still Jinx and how she's always try to build new stuff, and she's intrigued by new stuff and by inventions. So the thing ends just as we saw before. Vi is still feeling the drive of unfairness, and I think this scene is also a clue to where we're heading forward and to the development of Vi. We can see here how when Vi is looking at the beautiful city and the colorful city, she's feeling angry and she's feeling like something is unfair is happening here. When she was a little child and she looked at the city, she felt that way, and now she's a bit older and she's still looking at the city and she felt that way, and she's saying one day this city is gonna respect us. This unfairness will not last forever, and I will do something about it. And what's lovely about it is that Vi say this city is going to respect us. I mean, she's looking at the city. At this moment, she's not looking at Powder, and maybe the word us just come out intuitively. So the word us here could be confusing. I think, and when I look at Vi at this moment, I think we see now part of Vi that was only her and not connected so much to Powder. I mean, this is her drive, her motivation, her own personality element of I will fight injustice and I will get respect. She's still including Powder, but she's not really looking at her. She's looking at the city, and she's showing us our own element of personality here, which not necessarily Powder feel the same. Because as we can see, Vi is looking at the city, but Powder is looking at Vi. I think this shot can be a reminder for us for the way we're looking at Vi and Powder. We're still looking at a parent and a child and a baby. And so the parent is looking ahead on the stuff that he wants to conquer or change, right? Or the injustice that she's want to solve. But the child is looking at the parent. And for the child, the parent is the world. And so the development of Vi and Powder personality throughout the series is incredible. Do you want to hear more? Join me in my next video. Thank you for watching. Hugs and kisses.